Joining us, News Roundup Information Overload Hour, the one and only gobby one, Katie Hopkins of the Daily Mail, UK, Geraldo Rivera, Fox News legal analyst. Just from a legal standpoint, Geraldo, Obama admits that he didn't have the authority for DACA, but he did it anyway. And when you do that, you're usurping the legislative role in government, usurping power from them. You're stomping on the Constitution and the rule of law. And so it was wrong from the get-go. And I actually think if you're pro-DACA, you should be thankful that Trump gave you 8 months and 6 additional months and let Congress do what their job is.
Well, two parts. I think that you're obviously correct on the legal analysis. Congress passes laws. This was de facto a law that gave 800,000 very deserving young people, by and large, they cut them some slack. Now, it should have been a law. Instead, it was an executive order. President Obama was probably overstepping his authority. The Supreme Court has not yet ruled on that issue.
Well, you and I both know it's very obvious. The president himself, then President Obama, admitted he didn't have the ability to use a stroke of a pen, and he had to enforce laws even if they thought they were wrong.
Let's say that's absolutely true. Where do you go from there? You can't. In my view, Sean, as you know, you can't torture the children for the act of the president. The 44th president exceeded his authority, and he did something he should not have done, perhaps. But he's done it, and now to make the beneficiaries of his largesse, however misguided, make them pay for it, I think is really
nobody's paying for it. It's 6 months. Congress has the right to pass any law they want, and now
thank God for that.
And now people like you can go out there and say, okay, I want people to pass DACA, and people like me are going to go out there and say, I want a wall.
Okay, great. Why not have both? Why not make a deal? I'm okay with that.
You're my brother. I'm not giving you the upper hand in a deal. But let me go to Katie Hopkins. Katie, coming from Great Britain, you have a little different perspective because you've had unbridled open borders, and it is now changing dramatically what Europe used to be. And in other words, you're inviting people in. You have no-go zones. You have 80 Sharia courts in your country, no-go zones in France, although people deny them. I've interviewed people that have been to them. You have all these terrorists. There's been no assimilation, all these terror attacks, all this migration without any vetting whatsoever. How has it impacted the culture of Europe?
Absolutely. I think, this is where you have someone like Geraldo, who obviously hasn't lived through these types of experiences, hasn't watched their entire culture being washed away, and uses these nonsense phrases like, we're going to torture these children. No one is trying to torture children. You're being so over-dramatic, which is typical of you kind of lefty liberal types. All Trump is trying to do is restore order. All he's doing is saying you've got 6 months to sort the house out, and at that point those that need to be deported will be deported. You might remember he said, I'm going to build a wall, but he also said, I'm going to build a wall with a great big door in it, and I will welcome people when they come here legally, and I will welcome people when they want to become day workers. So all he's trying to do is reestablish a system of law and order, and I do not understand why those that belong to the Democrats and whatever cannot understand the simple process of law.
Well, all I can tell you, Katie, is that I know very well how immigration has impacted Europe. You may recall my daughter was caught in the terrorist attack in Paris. She was inside the stadium, and I went to be with her for the next 3 weeks and was on the scene when the Muslim extremists were taken down by French security. I know very well
what unbridled
immigration has done to the UK.
Why would you then say,
these are 800,000 young people. These are 800,000 young people, all of whom have been vetted, who are now documented, who would become undocumented. It is a notion that benefits absolutely no one and will hurt the Republican Party in the United States.
That's nonsense.
I want this president to succeed.
That's complete nonsense. You just said it will benefit absolutely no one. That's just a massive bunch of words that mean nothing. You just said some words that were totally empty.
Well,
we've already had proof. Hold on. I'm going to reply to you. We've already had Zuckerberg coming out and saying when these guys become undocumented, 700,000 people within Facebook will lose their jobs. We've already had him say 700,000 illegals. It strikes me that will be very good news for American kids that might want to get a job that are unable otherwise because someone else is already in that job. All we're asking is for people to respect America and to abide by the law. And Obama just sat there with his phone and his pen, as he put it, and rode roughshod over your Constitution. That is neither respectful of your Constitution nor respectful of the American people.
I am respectful of the President of the United States, who happens to be a friend of mine, and I don't
care if he's your brother. I don't care if he's your brother. It makes no odds to me.
Harm here. I mean, it is absolutely...
What is it with Americans? Why do you think being friends means anything?
This is an unnecessary act that is more political.
Oh, go on. Tell me it's cruel. Go on. Use the word cruel, sweetie. Do it. Do it. I know you want to.
Today that he will revisit it if Congress does not. And I trust his instincts. I've known him for 4 decades. He's not a cruel person. I think he will heed the counsel of his family and his own heart, and he will cut these kids some slack. Now you can talk about the wall. Now you can talk about other restrictions. Now you can talk about, enhanced border protections and all the rest of it. But these 800,000 are in a very special category. They came through no fault of their own. Most of them the average age was 6 years old. Now they are no longer children. They are in their 20s, but every single one of them is either in the military, in college, or working. What's the point of disrupting all these lives? For what do we do it? To appease?
Are you going to breathe? Or are you just going to talk constantly without stopping? Because if you let me know, I can call back when you shut up. Because frankly, from my perspective, seeing what we see, and you say that you understand the problem here in Europe because your own daughter was caught up, and I'm so sorry for her. My heart goes out to anybody caught up in the terror that we face. But I am sick with people telling me the majority of the Muslim population here are good people. You've just done precisely the same thing. The majority of these dreamers, I love the way you use these terms when you want to talk about people. They are illegal immigrants. Don't tell me they're dreamers. Don't try and pretend that you're going to give me a free unicorn with every dreamer. You know, that's typical of you guys. These are illegal migrants in the same way that over here I'm told to believe that all Muslims are nice people. I'm sorry, I can't. Because the Muslims that I've seen that are extreme Muslims have taken hunting knives to people when they've been dining out and have blown up people like your daughter was involved in. I think we need to respect the law. We need to recognize that American people...
Hang on, we'll go into a break. Quick response, Geraldo.
Well, my response is that the president is following his conscience, and I think he's going to do the right thing in this regard. The issue of immigration can be debated. I want Congress to get off their butts and finally pass some comprehensive reform that lays out some very clear laws. And then if you want to use valuable infrastructure dollars to build the wall, go ahead. But first, you've got to rebuild Texas because of Harvey. You've got to rebuild Irma because of Irma. You've got to rebuild Puerto Rico. It's heading to Florida. Now, you really want to spend that infrastructure dollars on a wall when you're going to be trying to repair bridges and highways and public schools? I think that this is the debate the American people need to hear. And
stay right there. Katie Hopkins, Geraldo Rivera. We'll pick it up on the other side of this. All right, as we continue, Sean Hannity Show, debate over DACA. We continue now with Geraldo Rivera, Fox News Channel, and Katie Hopkins. And, you know, when you look at, for example, Geraldo, what has happened in Europe, and I remember the incident with your daughter very well, and that's every parent's worst nightmare. But this has happened now again and again and again. Who would have ever thunk it, if you will, that Great Britain has 80 Sharia courts, over 80 as a matter of fact, or that you have people coming into the country, migrants that have clearly no intention at assimilation and being a part of society, and they separate themselves. And then you have the increased violence by the extremists that come with people that genuinely want a better life. How do you ascertain? How do you do it in a way that's safe and secure?
Well, the advantage we have, and I'm curious, Sean, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, I'm curious what you would advise President Trump to do in the current situation. What's the upside for Trump's legacy if he...
Here's my answer.
These children. I mean,
we always get the tax increases. We never get the spending cuts. You always get the amnesty. You never get the wall built.
Well, I think that...
Hang on.
You're right.
And my answer is this. Build the wall first. That's my answer.
Well, I think that the wall, I've told you now, if elections have consequences, if a majority of the people who voted in the majority of the states still insist on building the wall, then have at it. Many, many nations, but I think that in the current situation, it is impossible for anyone not to understand the humanity of the 800,000 dreamers, Sean.
What's your response, Katie?
I just find, I think, when people say, oh, elections have consequences, oh, yeah, they do. And guess what? We voted for Trump, or you guys did. I just kind of celebrated wildly because for 18 months on a campaign trail, he told us, I will sort out immigration and I will build a wall. The reason so many people queued for so many hours to put their little cross in that box was because he said he would build the wall.
Well, I wonder if how great Great Britain will be when it builds its wall on the Channel and divorces itself from Europe. We'll see. History will...
Well, Obama told us we'd be going to the back of the queue, honey, which is why most of us voted to do the opposite of what Obama said, because we see that he's a whole bunch of talk. He talks a good talk, but sadly he did very little, and that's why we voted Brexit, honey.
I ask you very directly. I'll tell you a story.
All right, we don't have time.
You don't do anything directly, hon. It takes you 4 hours to say anything, but go for your life. I mean, Sean's got a show a week. Fine.
I've got to be honest. If you two aren't both married, I think this would be the perfect, foundation for a great relationship, listening to you two. Great debate. I will bring you both back together. We'll see you next week. Katie Hopkins, the gobby one, Geraldo Rivera from the Fox News Channel.